Hi guys, in this video of Kabbalah Basics, you're going to be seeing Rabbi Sim Jacobson of the Meaningful Life Center speaking about very deep topics in Kabbalah in a very simplified and demystified way of understanding. This video is actually the fourth part of this interview. You can watch the first three on this channel, obviously, but let me just give you a short little recap. We spoke about how every single thing in this world has a spiritual dimension within it. Just like you have atoms, you have spiritual worlds within and under this universe. And then there are also the 10 Sefirot, which are kind of the parts of that system. Now we're going all the way deep into God before he even began working on creating this universe.
All of this is the way, let's call it, I called him before the cosmic architect. We'll call God the cosmic artist. This is the art that he created. Now, what about him? Is the artist defined, the art is defined, is the artist defined by being an artist? He may be other things too. He can be a father, he can be a husband, he can be a wife, he can be things that we don't even imagine. So everything we've discussed is the internal workings of the structure of existence. We haven't talked about the creator of existence, the producer himself. So when you think of the context, so when you see a beautiful piece of art, so you can deconstruct it and say, okay, from this art, I discover the artist may have lived in this area. Maybe it's expressing a sentiment. He went through a tragedy and he created art or joy. So you could learn from the art about the artist, but not everything.
Right.
But then one day you meet the artist and you say, oh, wow, I can't believe it. The artist has created also other types of art. And you realize the artist is a lot more than the sum of the parts of his art. So we've been talking till now is the art.
Wow.
What about the artist? That's already a discussion. So then you come into, you mentioned Tzimtzum. Tzimtzum simply is a term to describe that there's a reality that is not defined by this reality. So what we're talking about is the reality of the artist who, let's say, was mitzamtzim himself, to use that word. He diminished himself to create this one piece of art, or maybe he created another piece of art. Or think of a teacher. He taught a class. That's not all he knows. He knows a lot more than that one class. And there are things that he's not even an artist. So that's why in the Kabbalistic terminology, especially of the Isaac Luria, the Arizal, the concept of Tzimtzum reflects a type of quantum leap from a state that is completely beyond to a state that's defined that we can speak about. Like even now, as we're speaking,
right,
we're both exercising some Tzimtzum. I'm not saying everything I know. You're not asking everything you know. We are structuring it. We're taking a question and then we're defining. So someone will say, what's inside my mind? A lot more than what I said here today.
Right.
And I'm not saying that to toot my horn. It's just the normal expression. Right. Anyone speaking doesn't say everything that they know.
Right.
So that is the language of Kabbalistic. Again, I'm trying to demystify it.
Right.
Is simply the process that there's a lot more that you've not heard about, so to speak. So Tzimtzum is reflective that God behind the scenes is far beyond the scenes themselves. So it's helping us to come to realize that the art leads us to the artist. But then we start realizing there's things that are beyond the beyond. And the higher you go, the more you're going, let's call it the other side of the curtain. What's going on the other side of the curtain? That's like going pre-Tzimtzum, so-called. But that's, of course, a whole other challenge because we barely can figure out how to understand the spirit of existence, let alone that spirit beyond existence.
Right.
But just for the record, the Kabbalah does talk about it, and Chassidus talks about it, and it also tells us it's accessible. But, you don't jump, a million miles before you jump 1 mile. So
right.
It's a step-by-step process. The real process of doing this is slowly working your way up. First, you look at existence. You look at the rain. It's wet. And you slowly make your way until you realize the spiritual forces behind it. And then you come to deeper understanding until you come to levels, we'll call them pre-Tzimtzum. And there are many Tzimtzumim as well. And then there's, of course, the great, what is called the great Tzimtzum, the Tzimtzum HaRishon or Tzimtzum HaGadol.
Right.
That's like the first quantum leap. But I don't know if you want to go there.
But would you say that everything is infinite before there?
Let's define the word infinite. I don't like to throw words out. In mathematics, infinite set of numbers means there's a finite set of numbers. One, you keep going. An infinite set of numbers means that there's no limit, right? So when you mean infinite is, I'm sure coming from your yeshiva education, they taught you this concept of infinite, of Ein Sof. I went to the same yeshivas. That's how I know.
Right.
And I can tell you that the word is so used that we don't even know what it means. So can you give me an example of something that's infinite in your life? Is anything infinite? Everything we know is born and dies.
Right.
So we throw out this word. That's why I'm
Right.
pushing back here.
Right.
Because you can't just throw a word out. You have to know what it means. There's nothing seemingly in our mortal world that's infinite. Everything has a beginning and an end. Every life, money, food. The question is the soul infinite, for example? Let's take the soul. We have a soul. The soul we know doesn't die. Even when it separates from the body, the soul continues on. So you would say the soul is an expression, a reflection of something that's not mortal, not of the immortal, therefore the infinite. But where does it get it from? So there you have to go back to the Creator himself. So true infinity is only in the domain of the Creator, who's not bound by the rules of time and space that we're familiar with. So I would say once you understand that, then you can start beginning to get a taste of what is infinite. And that infinite reality has then in turn chosen to manifest itself in our souls. So we have a certain element of infinite. Essentially, when you do something soulful, you can have an impact that will last forever, even when you're no longer here, because you're drawing down something that's, if I can quote a secular poet, William Blake, he said, to see a world in a grain of sand, to see a heaven in a wildflower, he says, to hold infinity in the palm of your hand and eternity in an hour. I don't know where he got it from. He was a mystic. But in Kabbalistic teachings, yes, 1 second, if you change someone's life, you do a good deed, you can release infinite energy because you could affect him or her for generations to come, their children and grandchildren, as we know. So that would be to really make it a little tangible. So where does that come from? Because God is saying, even though you're a finite creature in a finite world, I'm giving you some powers to be able to bridge and channel infinity into your lives. Something that's permanent. I mean, look at the Jewish people in a way that we've survived and gone through everything in life. Doesn't make sense how. Throughout history, we've been persecuted, expelled, killed, everything, because there's a certain element of what we call, Am Yisrael Chai, Nitzkias, in Hebrew is called a taste of the eternal. So, example in Hasidic thought for eternity is birth. You give birth to children, and those children can give birth to other children. In a sense, that's an infinite power. Nothing else, everything else in life is not that way. You take a piece of clay, you turn it into a pot. Doesn't have that element. Doesn't. Perpetuating life does, just to give a little sense of it. So, just to keep in mind as well, since we're talking about it, there's a fascinating expression by one of the great Kabbalists. His name was Meir Ibn Gabbai. He wrote a work called Avodat HaKodesh. He's the 13th century Kabbalist. And he says that, furthermore, God is not even infinite. Because to say that he's infinite and not finite is also limiting him. So that just as he has the power to create the infinite, he has the power to create the finite. So wrap your head around that one. And therefore, the finite really is just another expression of the infinite. It's just one expression of something that's beyond infinite. So if you want to really...
That's definitely a fascinating idea.
Yeah, so bottom line is that there's a finite world, there's an infinite reality, and ultimately the goal is to fuse the two, to join them.
And I'm imagining that the reason this contraction, concealment, tzimtzum happened, that this whole spiritual structure is all somehow to give us humans the ability to connect all the way up high.
Exactly. So, when people ask how high can we reach, some people think there's a glass ceiling. This is the real dilemma that all Kabbalah comes to address. Can we find a bridge, an interface between the divine infinite and the finite reality? So some will say, no, you can't. And in Torah and Judaism, especially in the Kabbalistic and Hasidic texts, absolutely yes. But it's not as simple as it sounds. Because remember, we are finite creatures. If I were now to try to put infinite energy inside you,
Right.
you'd blow apart.
Right.
Like a circuit, So it has to be with a tzimtzum that channels. So think of the Tzimtzum as a channeler more than anything else. It's not just a concealer to the quantum leap I mentioned. It's also to channel. So when a teacher channels an idea to a beginner student and just teaching them ABC, there can be profound wisdom there, but it's not yet revealed.
Right.
As the student expands his or her containers, more energy enters, but to the point that we can expand those containers to even receive the infinite. But that doesn't happen overnight. You need first, you need to grow and mature, see what you can receive. And as you expand, you can receive higher and higher level. And because we do have an infinite soul within us, we can ultimately touch and experience that which is completely beyond. But again, step by step, there's no magic tricks.
Right.
And it doesn't happen overnight.
Right. This was a definitely very intriguing discussion. We brought in a lot of the Kabbalah, all the secrets, and we laid it out. There's obviously a lot more to learn about this. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you want to learn more about Kabbalah, and especially the deeper ideas and the more sophisticated concepts, we will be delving into all these ideas in this channel. So make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned for the videos that are going to be coming later. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.